Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, my friends, this is the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast, and I'm your host, Rev Recluse, and welcome to podcast number 12. I hope everybody's doing fantastic out there. So what are we going to do here? I've got a couple of records in the Roadhouse country genre that made its presence known in Western Canada in the mid-70s going into the early 80s. It's a particular niche of country music and Western swing music. It has a little bit of a Ukrainian flavor to it on top of all of the other bits of the gumbo of Roadhouse country, and it gives it a little bit of a kick that you wouldn't hear anywhere else. This particular version of the Roadhouse country genre is by a gentleman by the name of Garry Lee, who is also known, of course, of infamy. I guess it would be infamy of a song that it was released with Garry Lee and Showdown, I believe, in 1980, 1981, a classic underground cult hit, not played on the radio because it was too filthy. Everybody knows it. It's called the Rodeo Song. You would hear it every Roadhouse country bar, lounge, anywhere basically that had a jukebox in it. It was infamous. Even back in Cleveland in 1981, whenever it was released, 1982, I even heard it on the shores of Lake Erie. And it's really interesting that Garry was kind of a more conventional Roadhouse country performer before this. So the first record that I want to play for you is the first record that Garry Lee released, I believe, in 1976. It's called Motel Cowboy. And again, it's a little bit more conventional than the later stuff that he did with Showdown, but I think it's just as worthwhile. It shows his writing chops, and it's, again, still got a little bit of a kick to it, so it's not anything that he would be embarrassed to put out, let's say. So the first one I'm going to play for you is the title track from Motel Cowboy. He has a crack band that was recorded in Damon Recording Studios in 1976. Let's get right to it. This is the title track from Garry Lee, Motel Cowboy, here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
He's a motel cowboy from Billings. He drives a rodeo line. His Cadillac's jet black, front and back fender, and the coffee costs a dime. And this dirty old station, fill her up for the 10:30. 3 sugar lumps to go. 'Cause me and my mare will be the first ones there at the Omaha Rodeo. Long lean, double lean, 18 neck and his blue jean jacket. An 8-second line that's genuine as a 6-odd salary bracket. He wears his women like the seat of his pants until his boots are under somebody's bed. And though he gets top billing as a box top billing, he's a lover, not a fighter instead. Whoa, yeah. Number one attraction, guaranteed satisfaction. Man about the rodeo. You're the lady, you're the lady, you're the lady.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Garry Lee with the title track of his album called Motel Cowboy. Now the next one I'm going to play for you is a song called Rainy Day Woman, not the Bob Dylan song, Rainy Day Woman 12 and 35. This is Rainy Day Woman. And again, it's another very peppy, got a little bit of a kick to it Roadhouse country song, made very well and sung very well by Garry and the Crack Band. So this is Garry Lee, Motel Cowboy LP. This is a song called Rainy Day Woman here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Oh, rainy day woman, I never seem to see you for the good times or the sunshine. You have been a friend of mine, rainy day woman. That woman of mine, she ain't happy till she finds something wrong and someone to blame. If it ain't one thing, it's another one on the way. Woke up this morning with the sunshine, sure as hell it looks just like rain. I know where to go on a cloudy day. Oh, rainy day woman, I never seem to see you for the good times or the sunshine. You have been a friend of mine, rainy day woman. Oh, rainy day woman, I never seem to see you for the good times or the sunshine. You have been a friend of mine, rainy day woman. Oh, rainy day woman, I never seem to see you for the good times or the sunshine. You have been a friend of mine, rainy day woman.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Garry Lee from his LP called Motel Cowboy with a song, self-penned, not the Dylan song, called Rainy Day Woman. Now, the next artist I want to spotlight here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast is Neil Campbell. And Neil's LP called A Country Touch, by the way, I believe came out, I don't have a specific year, I'm thinking 78, 79, 80, right around that time. It's filled with Neil originals and covers, produced by Joe Kozak, or no, not actually produced, sorry about that, engineered by Joe Kozak at the Project 70 Studios. There's that studio again, and there's Joe Kozak. Produced by Barry Hawkins. Sorry about that, Barry. I completely apologize. And I really like this record also. The band is extremely tight, extremely hot. They sound like a very crack studio musician band. Joe Kozak actually is playing bass on this particular album also. I just when you listen to it, you'll know these guys, they're professionals. I mean, they are certainly professionals. They know how to play. They know how to play very well. So without further ado, I'm going to start with the first one I want to play for you. This is the song called The Rock and Roll Medley with Bebopalua, Ruby Ruby, Mountain of Love. This is a really good example of how hot the band is and how tight the band is. So this is Neil Campbell from his album called The Country Touch with The Rock and Roll Medley here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Well, Bebopalula, she's my baby. Bebopalula, well, I don't mean maybe. Bebopalula, she's my baby. Bebopalula, well, I don't mean maybe. Bebopalula, well, my baby doll. Well, she's a gal in the new blue jeans. She's the queen of all the teens. She's a woman that I know. She's a woman I holler, go, 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 go. Bebop-a-lulu, she's my baby. Bebop-a-lulu, well, I don't mean maybe. Bebop-a-lulu, well, my baby gone. Say, I got a gal and Ruby is her name. She don't love me, but I love her just the same. Oh, 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 oh. Ruby, 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 I want you. Like a ghost, I'm gonna haunt you. Ruby, 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 will you be mine? Each time I see you leaving, my heart cries. I'm gonna steal you away from all those guys. Oh, oh, oh. From that happy time when I met you, baby, I'm gonna get you. Ruby, 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 will you be mine? Standing on the mountain, looking down on the city, without a feeling is a doggone pity. Teardrops are rolling down the mountainside. Many times I've been here, so many times I cried. Used to be so happy when we were alone, high on a mountain of love. The mountain of love, the mountain of love. You should be ashamed. Used to be the mountain of love. You just changed your name. Way down below there's a 500,000 people. Somewhere there's a church with a big cross steeple. Inside the church there's an altar there with flowers. Wedding bells are ringing, should have been ours. That's why I'm so lonely, I lost my love. High on a mountain of love. High on a mountain of love. High on a mountain of love.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Neil Campbell and the Crack studio band doing a rock and roll medley. Now, the next one I want to play for you is a Neil original called Prairie Maiden. And Neil has a very nice voice. It is maybe not as country-esque as I would have expected from Neil itself, especially on the cover of the album. Very country-esque. It's more of a folky, lilting kind of voice than anything else, although the voice is very good. Neil is very good, and the song itself is very good. So without further ado, this is Neil Campbell with his original song called Prairie Maiden here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
I left her there in Manitoba. Tears were streaming from her eyes. I climbed aboard a 747, took off for Vancouver skies. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, where she waits all alone. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, never, never more to roam. I've seen all the girls out here on the west coast. They lie, they cheat and break your heart. I'm going back to Manitoba. When I return, we'll never part. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, where she waits all alone. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, never, never more to roam. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, where she waits all alone. Yes, I'm going back to my prairie maiden, never, never more to roam.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Neil Campbell with his original song called Prairie Maiden. Now, the last song I'm going to play for you on the podcast and on Neil's record, this is a song, a classic song written by a classic performer, unfortunately just passed away, Merle Haggard. And may not be my favorite Merle song. I've got a couple of it that are a little bit higher, but this is a stone cold classic. And Neil, who really doesn't have, in my opinion anyway, a country-esque voice, it's more of a folky, lilting kind of voice, does it justice, and the band does it justice also. So here is Neil Campbell with a Merle Haggard classic, Mama Tried, here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
First thing I remember knowing was the lonesome whistle blowing. The young ones dream of growing up to ride on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound. No one to steer me right, but Mama tried. I turned 21 in prison, do life without parole. No one to steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried to teach me better, but her pleading eye and eye. Now there's only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. When I'm only rebel child from a family meek and mild, my mama seemed to know what lay in store. In spite of all my Sunday learning, to the bad I kept on turning, till Mama couldn't hold me anymore. I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one to steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried to teach me better, but her pleading eye and eye. Now there's only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Daddy, rest his soul, left Mama heavy load. She tried so hard to fill his shoes, working hours without rest. She tried to give the best. She tried to steer me right, but I refused. I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one to steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried to teach me better, but her pleading eye and eye. Now there's only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Yes, there's only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Neil Campbell with the Merle Haggard classic, Mama Tried. And the thing about records like this, and the thing I love about records like this, is that places like Project 70 Studios in Edmonton, and Damon Recording Studios, and Sundown Recording Studios, and a lot of other recording places in Edmonton and Alberta and Calgary and Western Canada. These guys were pros. People would come in there all the time playing different genres of music, whether it be country, whether it be rock and roll, whether it be blues, whether it be, just about anything. And the guys who were the people who were the studio musicians, they had to know how to play this kind of stuff, and they had to know how to play it, on a dime. And to their credit, this band who is with Neil on this particular recording project just nailed it. They are rhythm and lead guitar, Barry Hawkins, who also was the producer. Steel guitar and harmonica, Frank Walls. Joe Kozak on bass. And drums, Jim Hathaway. Kudos, folks. You did a fantastic job. And kudos to Neil Campbell, wherever you are, my friend. Very, very nice record. That's it, folks. That's the end of the podcast. And I would be remiss, once again, if I did not mention that the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast is on iTunes. Yes, you can subscribe to me on iTunes if you will. And I hope you enjoy it. I also want to mention Kieran Unlin of the Seen and Heard and the YEG, or Seen and Heard in Edmonton podcast. I am also a member of the Seen and Heard in Edmonton podcast network. Karen has been a huge fan of not only the podcast, but the Vintage Edmonton website, and I can't thank her enough for her encouragement. And I'm very, very proud to be a part of the podcast network. So as more information comes in, I'll let you know about that, hopefully by the next podcast. So I think that's about it. I'm going to go out and enjoy the day. It is a gorgeous day out there. So I'm going to go out and enjoy it. Until next time, folks, I'll see you later.